Welcome everyone to this video where I, an international student, will explain how I went from a 640 to a 760 on the English section of the digital SAT. So I think that this video is going to be really helpful for my fellow international students because even though most of us are good at math, we struggle with English because it's not our first language, and for some, it's not even their second language, like for me, for example. So after scoring high, which was very unexpected, I wanted to share my best tips so that I can contribute to my fellow international students. So, without further ado, I'll just jump straight to the tips without wasting your time. And tip number one, which is probably the most important tip, is time management. If you do not have good time management on the digital SAT, you are going to screw everything up. Digital SAT is very different from the paper SAT. On the paper SAT, you have one long passage and then you have like 10 to 11 questions for that passage. While on the digital SAT, you have one short passage for every single question. And for every single question, you have about 70 seconds if you divide the total time by the total number of questions. But that 70 seconds is very deceiving. It is very wrong to think that for every single question you have 70 seconds because reading questions require much more time than, let's say, notes questions or grammar questions. So, in order to be able to score high, you need to learn how to correctly allocate time and manage your time in the modules and for every single question. And you have to do that strategically. So, my way is like this. First, you must solve the easier questions. So, as soon as your test starts, you'll see that Blue Book module 1 page, you'll be on question 1. And the first thing I want you to do is directly skip to standard English conventions. And they're going to be somewhere in between question 14 and 16, so somewhere in the middle of the module. So, as soon as the test starts, skip to standard English conventions and do from there and do until the end. And when you finish that, when you finish question 27, then you go back to question 1 and you do vocab. And for these questions, you must do them as fast as possible. So, vocabulary, notes, and standard English conventions. I say that ideally, like even though on paper you have 70 seconds, you should spend around 40 seconds or 50 seconds on each of these questions. On notes, you should even spend less, maybe 15 to 20 seconds. You must save as much time as possible so that you can have more time for reading because trust me, you are gonna need that extra time on reading because it is very hard. Sometimes you will need to even reread a text or a passage like 2 to 3 times before you can like understand what is being said there. So make sure to do standard English conventions, vocab, and notes as fast as possible. And I said that you should spend maximum 12 to 15 minutes on those, but 15 minutes is just too much. So it's just going to be the like the upper extreme, I'd say. Do not exceed over 15 minutes. Ideally, you should spend around 10 minutes on in standard English conventions, which are just grammar and vocab and notes. And how do we do that? So I have some tips for that. First of all, do not ruin your flow. So when you're solving a test, you're in that flow state and do not break that flow. Do not ruin it because it's very important for time management. If you do not understand the question in the first 15 to 20 seconds that you're reading it, just mark it for review and come back later. Do not try to force yourself to understand it. You do not understand it, just mark it for review and skip. Also, when you're reading a question, if you don't understand the word, I noticed that a lot of international students, just like me, when they don't understand the word in the passage, they start panicking. Like, oh my God, I don't understand this word. I'm not going to grasp the meaning of this passage and I'm not going to get this question right. But on the SAT, if you do not understand the word, it's not a big, like, it's not a game changer. Because, like, when I was solving my tests, on my real test in March, there were some passages in which I didn't understand certain words, like I've never even heard them before. But that didn't stop me from understanding the deeper meaning behind the passage. So if you do not understand the word, just ignore it. It's not going to change anything. And then another very big tip is do not read the questions, but not always. So in vocab and standard English conventions, you mustn't read the questions because, as I said, standard English conventions start from around the middle of the module. So let's say around question 15. And from question 15 until you see the notes questions, every single question is going to be standard English conventions, every single one of the questions. So you're not going to get a different question. So if you're reading the question every single time, you're just spending an extra 2 to 3 seconds on every single questions, which will add up to like extra 30 seconds, which you can use on the reading questions. So you see that standard English conventions started in like question 15. Do not read the questions after that. You know that every single question after that will be standard English conventions. And then we have the notes questions. So the notes questions are a special case, and I'll talk about them a bit later. And now vocabulary. So from question one until you see the first reading question, every single question is going to be vocabulary. So let's say question one, two, three, and four. Until you see that first reading question, everything is going to be vocabulary. So do not read the question because every single time it's going to be which word best matches the something, 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 something. So you know that every single question is going to be vocabulary. So do not spend time on reading the questions. And then another very important tip that I used is do not read hard and long names. So one thing I noticed is that College Board likes to put very, very complicated names in their passages, like Maria Stefani Velasquez. Well, reading this whole name is not going to help you with anything. That's what I say. So instead of reading Maria Stefani Velasquez, just read Maria and that's it. And that it's about everything else, not just names. There are hard and long and like phrases which are very hard to pronounce for international students like me. So just read the first term, like instead of Maria Stefani something, I just read Maria. If there is a name of a building and it's very, very long, just read the first part of the name. It's not going to change anything. It's not gonna make you answer that question incorrectly. So that's also very important if you want to save time. And now we have a special case, which are the notes questions. So I'm not sure if everyone knows this, but when you're solving notes questions, do not read the notes themselves. 99% of the time, you will be able to answer the question without reading the notes, just by reading the first half of the question. And that's very important. I said only the first half because the second half is going to be exactly the same for every single notes question. The second half will be which choice most effectively uses relevant information from the notes to accomplish this goal. And this will be exactly the same for every single notes question. The only part of the question that's going to be different is the first part. And that's the only part you need to answer the question. So what do I mean by do not read the questions? Well, in the notes questions, when you're reading the first part of the question, you're going to see some keywords, and only one of the answer choices will logically match what is being asked. So, what do I mean? So, let's ignore the notes. Like, I'm not going to read while researching a topic, that's just a waste of time. I'll only read the student wants to emphasize a similarity between the two works. So, my keyword is similarity and we need to find a similarity between the two works. Let's read A. Erasure 2008 uses discarded objects such as audio cassette, tapes, and magnets. Homegrown, however, includes pushpins. Okay, uh, when you want to find a similarity, however is already a red flag because however shows contrast, it shows difference. So A is immediately incorrect. Tubbs' work, which often features discarded objects, has been shown both within the United States and abroad. B doesn't show us a similarity between two works, so B is erased. Like many of Tubbs' sculptures, both, now this is a good sign, both Erasure and Homegrown include discarded objects. Erasure uses audio cassette tapes and Homegrown uses plastic forks. C shows similarity. Both of them use discarded objects. I'm 100% sure C is correct. I don't even need to read D. So this strategy works for every single notes question. Okay, And uh, here it's just specific for notes, but if you want another video where I explain how to save time for every single question type, like grammar, vocab, graphs, and things like that, like double passages, inferring, if you want specific like strategies for every single question type, just let me know in the comments. So if the majority want it, then I can record. Okay, my second tip: focus on grammar first. Now, when you're starting to prepare for the SAT and you do your first practice test, you're probably gonna get higher on grammar than on reading. And then a lot of people think, well, my grammar is already high. I should only focus on reading and try to improve reading. But here's the catch: reading is very hard to improve because I think reading is not, it's like, no, I'll say it this way: grammar is similar to math. Why a lot of people can score high on math? Because it's just formula. You learn the formula, you apply the formula, and it works every single time. You just have to practice it. So you memorize the formulas, you know when to apply the correct formula and stuff like that. Grammar is similar. You learn the rules, you apply the rules, you practice them. That's it. You do not need to have like insane cognitive abilities to be able to understand the deep meaning behind the passage like you need for reading. In grammar, you just learn the rules and you apply them. So that's what I did. When I started preparing, I realized that I can easily ace grammar if I just learn every single rule. If I somehow maximize the score I get from grammar, then I can minimize the minimum score I need to get from reading in order to achieve a 700 and above. So, what I did is I learned the rules first. I have three very important resources that I suggest everyone uses: Crack SAT, which is very similar to Han Academy. Then you have Han Academy. And you might ask, which Han Academy should I solve? The older one or the new one? Like the old SAT Han Academy or the digital SAT Han Academy? And my tip for you is the new Han Academy is still new, like self-explanatory, and it doesn't have many resources. So what I suggest is you first finish the new Han Academy for the digital SAT, and then you only do the old one, because the old one has insane resources that really helped me score my score on my SAT. And then YouTube. YouTube has wonderful videos on grammar topics, and they're very well explained. And also, what I really liked on YouTube is watching how other people solve the grammar and reading sections and trying to imitate their strategies. So I watched channels like Hayden Rodia and uh, I think it was Prep Expert and Sieberson Method. And they have really cool methods of solving the grammar section, and they have really cool tips. So if you watch their videos, you'll be able to apply their tips when you're solving. And yeah, and after learning the rules, it is very important to apply the rules over and over again. So what I did is I solved Han Academy old practice tests, so not new ones. I used old paper SAT writing tests, because what I noticed is that the grammar questions on the old SAT writing test were very similar to the grammar questions on the digital SAT. So after I ran out of resources, but not even ran out, when I was preparing for the digital SAT, the new digital SAT Khan Academy was not even out yet. So everyone who prepared for the March SAT knows what I'm talking about. There were literally no resources. So what I did is I used old paper SAT writing tests and solved them. And you do not need to solve it fully. Just solve the grammar sections. You can skip. Should the writer add this, or should the writer remove this, or where should the sentence be placed, and etc. Yeah. So apply the grammar rules using old paper SAT writing tests. You can find them in Google, you can find them on Reddit, and you can even solve the old Han Academy. And then you should practice every single day without excuses. Practice writing every single day. By writing, I mean grammar, of course. Practice every single day so you can build confidence. You can solidify the knowledge in your brain, and you can build speed, because speed is very, very important in the digital SAT. It is much more important than on the old SAT, because on the old SAT, I think that knowledge, like having good knowledge, was more important than time management. While knowledge is still very, very important on the new digital SAT, I think that even if your knowledge is not good, if you have good time management and you can solve the maximum amount of easy questions like vocabulary, grammar, and notes, and like there are even some easy reading questions, then you'll be able to maximize your score. And then, a very important thing, perfecting grammar. If you perfect your grammar, if you solve every single grammar question correctly 100% of the times, like every single grammar question, trust me, getting 700 and above on the English section will be very, very easy. It will be like a piece of cake. Just trust me on this one. If you are able to solve every single grammar question 100% correctly every time you solve a practice test, getting 700 and above will be very easy for you. Okay, now tip number 3, another very, very important tip is review, 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 and reflect, reflect, reflect. So I think that if you solve practice tests without reviewing them, you're just wasting your time. In my opinion, if you spend about 1 hour solving a practice test, you should spend 1 hour and maybe even more reviewing that practice test and reflecting. So, what do I mean by that? So, after you solve your Blue Book tests, you can go to College Board's website and see your mistakes. And College Board will have wonderful explanations. Always read the explanations on College Board. So, how do you even review? How do you even reflect? Ask yourself, why did I get this question wrong? This is very crucial when I was preparing. Uh, I'd ask for every single question. Why did I do it wrong? What did I miss in the passage? How can I prevent myself from repeating the same mistake in the future? And then I'd also ask, so if the correct answer was A and I picked B, first of all, I'd ask myself, why is A the correct answer? I'd read option A and I would like deeply understand it, and I will reread the passage again until I 150% understand why uh, why A is the correct choice. This is very important. And then I'll ask myself, why did I pick B if B was the correct answer? What fooled me? What did I assume? What wrong did I like do? So should be able to understand that. And that's very, very important. If you just consistently do this, and sometimes it's even important, like if you want, you can write down your mistakes and you can like put it in an Excel sheet. Like question one mistake, why did I do this mistake? Oh, I missed this in this line. And how will I prevent myself from doing this mistake? I'll be more attentive when solving. I will not jump to conclusions. I will not infer anything, and etc. So, reviewing your tests is very, very important. And read the explanations given by College Board. Because if you read the explanations given by College Board, you will understand what College Board is looking for in correct answers. And you will notice patterns, because College Board follows a pattern. They cannot create different questions every time. Like they create different questions, but the correct answer always follows some kind of pattern, because they 100% have some uh like have some algorithm for creating the questions, because they cannot create 100% new questions from scratch every single time. So if you read the explanations given by College Board and if you review your mistakes consistently, you will slowly start understanding the patterns in the SAT test, and eventually you'll be able to crack their code. And then tip number 4, which is also very important, and I'm sure not many people know about this, use the fact that the digital SAT is adaptive. What does adaptive mean? Well, based on how well you perform on module 1, you'll get a different module 2. So if you did really good on module 1, you'll get a hard module 2. If you did bad on module 1, you'll get an easy module 2. And you should use this tip when you're solving the practice test on Bluebook. So Bluebook has 4 digital SAT tests and 2 PSATs. And What I see many people do is just they solve these tests and then they forget about them. But what I did is I solved the test first, and I'm pretty sure that most of you will already get the harder section of Module 2. Because if you get like less than 8 to 9 mistakes in Module 1, you'll get the hard Module 2. And now use this fact. Resolve the test, redo it again, but skip Module 1. So you'll get 0 out of 27, and then you get the easy Module 2. So for every single test, you're getting like 27 new questions, and maybe not really, really new. Let's say about 20 new questions for 6 tests. That's 120 like official practice questions for you to review, solve, and reflect upon. So use this fact. This is very, very important. If you're not doing this, do it right now. And now I have some extra tips which are smaller. The first tip is for my fellow international students. Do not spend time on learning 1000 words for the SAT or 300 most common words on the SAT. If you have time to learn 1000 words for the SAT, use that time to improve your comprehension. So, read harder books. Read harder scientific articles. If you're good in humanities but you're bad in science, read scientific articles. If you're good in articles, if you're good in science but you're bad in humanities like history, philosophy, you read philosophical books, read historical books. And at first, it will be very, very hard for you. But if you keep on doing it consistently every single day for 3, 4 months, you'll notice that your comprehension skills improve dramatically. So do not spend time on learning 1000 words for the SAT. Because even if you learn 1000 words for the SAT, there will always be 1 or 2 questions in which there's going to be words that probably Shakespeare has never even heard before. So if your level of English is already like on the B2 level, or if you can freely understand my speech, you'll already be able to answer about 60 to 70% of the vocab questions. And if you can't answer the other 30%, just don't stress over it, because even if you learn 1000 words for the SAT, that's not going to help you. It's better if you develop a strategy to solve the questions. And if you want me to show a strategy to solve vocabulary questions, just tell me in the comments so that I know if anyone wants that. So very important. If you have a lot of time, improve your comprehension by reading harder books. Read the old paper SAT, do writings, just do everything except learning 1000 words for the SAT. You can even watch Netflix shows or anime in English and write down words that you don't know. And that's even going to be more efficient than learning 1000 words for the SAT and like putting them down on flashcards on Quizlet or Anki. That's just going to spend like a ton of time. Read books and learn words by reading books. Underline words that you don't know. Find the definition. Understand that word in the context of the book that you're reading. Understand that word in the context of the show that you're watching. That will actually help you understand that word. While learning 1000 words for the SAT by flashcards, just that's just gonna like it's not gonna help you at all. I'm just saying that. And then practice writing, once again, using Han Academy and old paper tests. You can find old paper tests on Reddit, I think, and on Google and on Han Academy. And do that every single test, every single day, and review all of your mistakes. Han Academy is very good because Han Academy is officially partnered with College Board. So for every single test that you solve on Han Academy, you'll have official explanations. If you read those official explanations, you'll understand what College Board is looking for in a correct answer. And once again, solve old reading tests to improve your comprehension, because old reading tests, old reading passages are harder than the new ones. So if you are able to fully understand these old reading passages, then you'll have no problem with the new passages on the digital SAT. So that's it for my tips. I really hope that they helped. If you have any other video ideas related to the digital SAT, drop them in the comments and I'll make sure to look and answer to every single comment. Thanks for watching.